It feels like it's a new era in Washington right now. I mean, if you're older than 5 years old, you probably remember the government fear-mongering about the danger of coronavirus. Then we had the Biden CDC pushing the experimental vaccine on the elderly, the pregnant women, all the babies. Now, HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. is pulling the vax from the immunization schedule for children. Take a look.
I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Last year, the Biden administration urged healthy children to get yet another COVID shot despite the lack of any clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children.
That ends today. It's common sense and it's good science.
The Trump administration actually following the science. It's great because, we've had obviously unearthed data showing that the CDC knew about the risk of the COVID-19 vaccine and still pushed them. So here to break down one of the biggest cover-ups in history, we have Todd Erzen. He's the editor of the Deace Show and co-author of Faucian Bargain. So Todd, making his debut here on The Mandate. We are very excited to have you on the show tonight, Todd.
Well, I thought it was going to be to rant and rave about sports bros, but I'll take this as well. This will be fun.
This is your area. And Steve, anytime these topics come up, Steve always deflects to you first because you are the one that was skeptical. And now the rest of the country is following your lead. So tell us, why is this a big deal that this vaccine is no longer a part of the childhood schedule and for healthy pregnant women, as they say?
Well, this goes way beyond just those categories of human beings, because the scam all along is that the only way you can mandate this or any vaccine is if all major categories of human being are covered by said vaccine. So the fact that they are taking this off the schedule for pregnant women and children means this can't be mandated by law for anybody. And that, again, it's so important to understand. And the more I talk, the more you should get angry, because we knew all along that kids were threatened less from COVID than they were from the seasonal flu. And nobody was running around going crazy wearing masks about that. But we had to make the kids take something that we knew was dangerous to them so Big Pharma could make money. So you guys need to view this way beyond health. What happened here? And those guys were smiling and very kind in how they said it. But RFK Jr. and Makari and Bhattacharya, that's Elliot Ness right there, telling the mob to back off and never touch us again with this poison.
Todd, you said earlier today to take the win. And a short time ago, you may have thought this was absolutely impossible, that this would happen. So talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, I full disclosure, I am MAHA before MAHA. I married a woman who was not vaccinated at all. My 4 daughters are not vaccinated, and they're not sickly. They're high-achieving college track athletes. You might see some of the evidence over my shoulder there. So we've been kind of a horse of a different color for a long time about this stuff. So people in my world honestly never thought this day might come where there would be enough critical mass to push back like this. So, and obviously in the last 2 weeks, the MAHA movement, there's been some argument back and forth who's best suited to be Surgeon General, understandably. But the passions in this movement, now that we have this opportunity with so many people on board, you shouldn't be surprised that they're kind of on tilt and they plan on accomplishing everything they can. That's going to lead to some rancor and some division. But I think we need to all agree that we'd rather have that and come to results like this than what we see on a daily basis in the Republican Congress on like just about any issue. So we're going to absolutely take this win. Hopefully everybody hits the pause button within the MAHA movement and kind of is like realizes that This was not all for naught. We just needed to give these guys a little time to get appointed and to do the cooking in the kitchen. But now it's going to be on to other big things. This is not a group that's going to be satisfied. They plan on accomplishing very big things.
Yeah, so this is a huge day for MAHA. And like you guys said, take the victory, because they're going to still come. We're still going to get them. But at some point, you do have to just pause and say something good happened today. Those days have been few and far between, Todd.
And in light of that, one person that deserves a ton of credit is Donald Trump. Donald Trump talked about how proud he was ultimately of the vaccine. And if I were advising him, I would have told him, listen, just tell them you did trust the experts because you're not a doctor, and they screwed up and they betrayed you and they betrayed thousands. That's what I would have. But he doesn't want to say that. So on the show, and Steve has rightly pointed out, the closest thing you're going to get to some kind of concession is the appointing of RFK Jr. and the other two gentlemen. But now this is that on steroids. This is that squared, because he is allowing for the vaccine that he was a part of getting rolled out and was very public about that. I'm not pointing out that he hasn't said. He has allowed this to happen. A lot of men would not have been able to do that and shown that degree of humility. And Donald Trump will be the first person to tell you humility over the years hasn't necessarily been his strong suit. So once again, Donald Trump is doing things that most Republicans cannot get themselves out of the way to accomplish. And we owe him credit for that.
Yeah, and I would say you would be one of the people that were leading the skepticism going in, right? Just looking at it, going, I don't know what we're going to get. But is this group that's in the administration right now, would you say that after moves like today that we've seen, are they moving to restore trust in the administration? I know there's probably still a long ways to go, but is this the first step in the right direction?
Oh, absolutely. And it came relatively quickly. It's not, I know the anxiety around the appointment really was the thing that kind of got people asking secondary questions about what are we doing about COVID. But these are reasonable people. They understand the depths of the nefariousness of Big Pharma, and that no one was just going to come in. There's so much money involved. I'm sure you've talked on the show at some time about the fact that the likes of Jake Tapper and Chuck Todd and et cetera, they were all literally on their shows brought to you by Pfizer. That was not just simply going to go away at the snap of a Thanos finger when Trump and company got into the White House. So had that not happened with the Surgeon General thing a couple of weeks ago, I don't think people would have been uptight about what happened here and the timetable for getting pulled off the table. But the fact that it did happen, it just meant that they needed results. You got to show me something. And they showed them about the biggest thing they could possibly be shown this early on. Big Pharma absolutely did not want this to happen. And Donald Trump ultimately, again, is the only leader who, I think this is Nixon, only Nixon could go to China stuff. Somehow, some way, he's the only guy that could make this happen.
I want to get your take on where the MAHA coalition should go in general. But first, when it comes to childhood vaccines, this is a monumental moment, but it is dealing with something that kind of just happened or is fairly recent. What do you think the next steps in regards to childhood vaccines and that schedule be?
Well, I obviously wouldn't mind if they're all ultimately pulled off the shelf because we have no idea, really. We've been so dumbed down in terms of the human capacity for health in a world where you have first world sanitation, hygiene, diet. That's obviously not the entire world. But that's why MAHA, being way more about just vaccines and total health and diet, is so important. But at the very least, it's about taking everything about a mandate and whether or not healthy populations need this at all, and that mindset being taken through the entire population. People need to realize, even before COVID, the whole notion that healthy teenage boys or teenage girls who weren't sexually active automatically had to take the Gardasil vaccine. I mean, that wasn't medical. That was proof that the psyop that took us into COVID was already, we were ripe for the taking right there. But we've gotten to the point, I often say on the show, if you ask even a Christian population, what would you rather do first if you had to be given a choice? Baptize your child or get him vaccinated? Most of them have been so worked over by vaccine talk that they'd get their kid vaccinated first, because this is just fear-based. We think we have these human lives that are just ticking time bombs from the get-go. That's not how this works. That's not how that's not how this works at all. As long as you have some baseline for faith, for health, but we don't in this culture. We've kind of want to be comfortable and not have to be held accountable for anything. And now you're getting me on all kinds of other rants that we talk about on the Steve Deace Show. But if we take responsibility holistically for our lives and create a new way of thinking and being, and heck, Matthew, that's the reason I first found you when I first started reading your columns and inviting you and booking you on the Steve Deace Show. We need to think bigger across the board about all kinds of things, and that's how we're going to change this country.
Shots of vinegar from Todd all around for everybody in the audience right now. You mentioned all of the fear-mongering around COVID. Todd, they are at it again. There was a headline from Forbes over the weekend that the new COVID-19 variant NB181 causes surge in China, spreading to the U.S. Are they trying to make this 2020 all over again?
Why not? I mean, Jill, I be ready for anything. I don't know. I in some ways I don't care, and in other ways I care completely and everlastingly. I don't. This is the upside down. If they can play this back on us and we buy into it again, Dr. McCullough just spoke very convincingly when he spoke with Ron Johnson last week about how important it is to understand that the COVID vaccine, even if we can all agree that it hurt people and had adverse effects, there's all kinds of people in America, and many of them are Republicans and Christians, who still think that even with that, the vaccine still saved millions of lives, and we just kind of had to bite that bullet. And Dr. McCullough, don't take it from me, the anti-vaxxer, take it from him. That's just not true. You are way more likely to be injured by the COVID vaccine than you were by COVID itself. The government data says that, and it's not even particularly close. If you took the COVID vaccine, there was an 8% chance you were going to end up in the hospital for some reason, from complications to death. That was only 2% with the vaccine. If you were between the IFR, the infection fatality rate, if you were between 0 and 19 was 0.003%. It was only 0.5% if you were elderly. So if you polled Democrats, though, they said you were likely to be 25% if you got COVID, you'd be in the hospital. So that's the kind of deprogramming we still have to get away from. And so I wish I could look you in the face, Jill, and say there's absolutely no way they can do this to us again. But I don't know.
Yeah, so true after all we've been through. And I appreciate you mentioning the fact that, think about this. I had no idea when you were having me on the show graciously some years ago that here I would end up in Dallas, Texas, at the Blaze with Donald Trump as president, talking about, issues like this with you. It's really a remarkable turn of events for all of America in the last few years. So with that in mind, when you look at the MAHA coalition overall, Todd, where do you think that goes next? I mean, this is sort of there's a lot of, like you described, a lot of nervousness, in the beginning. Is this really going to work or not? Here's a big move that everyone wanted, just went down. The administration moving in the right direction. What are the things you think the whole movement should see next?
Well, basically, men like Senator Ron Johnson, I don't know if you know how it came to pass that he became the guy that he is on this topic, but a former Packer Hall of Famer named Ken Rutgers his wife was injured by the vaccine. And so he came to Ron Johnson and asked for help. So he started having these subcommittee meeting hearings on this stuff. Yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin, but Ron Johnson was elected after I came to Iowa, where I live now. And I think men like him and their ability to convince the rest of Congress, and well, don't hold your breath, but in the medical community at large, with people like RFK Jr. And Bhattacharya, to basically start changing the conversation holistically in medical schools and in hospitals, where you're not just a ticking time bomb waiting to happen in terms of healthcare. The reason doctors think the way that they do about vaccines is because A, it's profitable, and B, they've been taught nothing about them in medical school. It's like with lawyers. Lawyers these days don't take actually read the Constitution anymore. It's all about case law and things like that. Doctors know nothing about vaccines. They're just told that they're magical and they make life easier. And listen, in some cases, pharmaceuticals are the closest thing we have to magic. But people are losing trust in them because of what Big Pharma did during COVID. And that's all about, it's as much about psychology as it is about medicine or biology. The conversations with people from the time babies are born, and you have when Matthew, you and I are roughly the same age. When we got vaccinated, we had about 17 shots total in our lifetimes. That's up to like 77 now. And if you've been talking to Sarah Gonzalez, you know that there. Okay, we're healthy. We have better hygiene, sanitation, or at least available to us if we choose it, than ever before. Yet we need more vaccines, but we don't ask any questions about that. So again, Matthew, I point to the kind of conversations we had when you first came on the show and the columns you were writing that made me say, Steve, you got to talk to this guy, because we have to blow up silos is what we need to do. We have to totally convince people that they're addicted to various versions of idol worship. Trust the experts. First world nonsense that's quite frankly no different than Aztec voodoo in terms of its hold on us. I don't know if that's the easy way or the hard way. I just know that that's necessary.
No, of course. I mean, I fully agree. And it's what you guys talk about so important, because what we're talking about is not just a policy issue, right? We're not talking about a series of policy issues when we talk about this stuff. We're talking about a change in the complete way in which you look at the world and how you live your life. Yes. And we're really wrestling over what does the American way of life look like in the 21st century. And we need to rethink all the things. And you're one of the people who's been thinking outside the box for a while.
Todd Erzen, those coattails are getting a little longer, my friend. Thanks so much for your time.